Hey guys, I noticed that you might have missed part 3 training yesterday, but not to worry, I've got you covered. So this is going to be a 10-minute summary of what I've covered yesterday. In case you missed it, here are all the gist of it. And also, of course, if you're on a VIP, I do encourage you to go and watch the replay and take as much notes as possible because we've covered a lot. In Feng Shui, you have systemic Feng Shui, right? So systemic Feng Shui, let me show you the most important framework when it comes to Feng Shui learning, Feng Shui training, is that the systemic forms the basis of long-term Feng Shui, or what we call the underground foundation of fundamental Feng Shui, right? But on top of that, there's this factor called time. That's for the targeted approach. There's a 20-year cycle, there's a 9-year cycle, there's an annual cycle, monthly cycles, okay? So that part of timing, waiting for the right time is very important. Like for example, right now, all of us are in period 9. So when we have work, businesses, or target market that is compliant with the trends and energy of period 9, we will be able to ride the wave, right? So, but if you're going against the period 9, for example, then it's kind of like an uphill battle. So that's why it's important to understand the big timing. Now, speaking of battles, I talked about 2 types of battles that we need fixing because part 3 primarily is about fixing, okay? So to approach this whole subject, let me just remind you of our activation flow, right? In Feng Shui, this 5-day training or 5-part training focus on, the first part is about awaken, right? You become aware of what Feng Shui can do, cannot do. You become aware of when someone has Feng Shui problems, they might not realize it, right? Part 2 is about aligning, right? Aligning to your systemic energies and of your properties. And then part 3, which is what yesterday was all about, was to fix certain problems. In order to fix a problem, you must first understand whether it's an internal problem or a big picture problem. Okay, so the internal problems often relate to that individual, right? Internally, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, action-wise, skill set-wise, know-hows or connections that they have. It's all about the person. But when they say external flow, it's the big cycle, that period energy, that 20-year cycle, the big energy that governs the markets, the economy, right? The entire cultural shift, for example. That's called the big cycle. So the 2 types of battle that people are actually facing, and we need different types of Feng Shui to mitigate them, okay? Now, then we talk about fixing. In order to talk about fixing, we got to understand that fixing often involves removing the energy blocks. Because, from where we want to get to, right, from where we are to where we want to be, oftentimes the energy is already there. It's just that something is blocking, right? Maybe it's a mental block, creative block, right, or opportunities. We cannot see the opportunity because we're blocked, right? So we want to get back into that flow. That's what we meant by removing energy blocks, okay? And then I go through a list of description of what it is and how to do it and all that. And then I talked about understanding systemic, overlaying the targeted Feng Shui approach. A deeper understanding of what systemic is supposed to function as, and then how targeted forms a layer on top. So many people take Feng Shui as, just the San Yuan style, the San He style, or form school style, formula school style, all these different styles. But really, they fall under the function of either is a systemic approach to solving your Feng Shui, or it's a targeted approach to solving a specific problem. And then I gave a checklist, all right? That checklist basically is a list of things you need to do in order to prepare you to actually do an actual fixing of the Feng Shui of your property. Okay, then I proceeded to showing everybody how to plot the house chart and overlay that energy chart, which is the targeted chart for energy map over your property. Okay, so that part is important. How to take the house orientation, right? How to superimpose the chart and all that. Once you understand that, then we move on to fixing the 3 types of problems, right? The first type of problem was wealth related. The second type was relationship. The third one is personal related, all right? That person is the individual, right? So the 3 aspects. So the first one was wealth related issues that we want to fix. So I also explained that wealth is just not monetary itself. It's also 9 different types of wealth. And the 9 different types of wealth are, a person can be poor in terms of wisdom, That relates to star 1. A person can be poor in terms of attitude, not just in monetary terms, but in attitude. That relates to star 2. A person can be poor in courage. Without courage, they don't dare to take the first step. They don't dare to, go outside of the comfort zone. That relates to star 3. A person who can be poor in knowledge, right? No skills, no know-hows, don't know what to do, right? Don't know how to solve problems. That could be a star 4 problem. Okay, and then I went deeper into status and recognition as a form of wealth as well. Those who are poor in terms of recognition, status, and respectability from other people, that's a star 5 problem, right? Constantly disrespected, nobody takes you seriously, that could be a star 5 problem. And then a star 6 problem relates to character. Character is a form of wealth. A person who is poor in character will have low integrity and low dependability. Right? You cannot even trust yourself to do something. No discipline, nothing. Without that, that's why you're financially poor, right? Someone who is financially poor might have a character problem. So that's related to star 6. Or a person can be poor in love, right? Self-love, right? The ability to connect well with others, ability to understand others, receive love, receive care, communicate in a compassionate way. That could be the problem. That's why, you can't get other people to work with you or for you. Right, and financial as a type of wealth, obviously financial wealth, that doesn't relate so much just to monetary, but it relates to financial literacy, the ability to manage their own numbers, the ability to make finance, their money work hard for them. Some people just don't know that they are supposed to do that, so they are poor in financial literacy. Okay, and lastly, star 9. Star 9 is about spiritual wealth, right? A person who is who knows how to improve themselves, who wants to become a better human being, who wants to serve other people, who would like to make this world a better place. That is a spiritual wealth. Some people are very poor in spiritual wealth. They're very selfish, and they only want to take care of themselves, or they only want things they want to receive. They don't want to give. They're freeloaders in life, and that's why they remain at a very low level in terms of finance. So 9 types of different wealth, and to see this, I explained that there is a facing star inside the creative and wealth palace related to that person. So we are matching the systemic Feng Shui, which is based on the personal life sectors, over our targeted approach, which is the flying stars. And now you're targeting the creative and wealth palace facing star number. So I went deep dive on star 9, 4, 1, and 2. That was the 9 types of wealth. And then we moved on to relationship aspects, okay, one of the aspects that we needed solving. And so there are different types of relationship problems. So a lot of people think that relationship problems is just a matter of activating the peach blossom star, right? Oh, I want a love sector. If I activate love sector, everything is going to be all right, okay? But it's not like that, yeah? We know that to navigate relationship issues, first we must understand what is the cause of that problem, right? It could be sexual incompatibility, it could be communication breakdowns, it could be emotional intimacy issue, it could be conflict, unresolved conflicts, it could be insecurity and trust issue, it could be differences in love language, it could be financial stress, it could be self-worth, it could be lack of shared vision, goals and values. So there are 9 different types. Once again, it also relates to the 9 stars. So it's not just, oh, I'm going to get a love sector and everything's going to be all right. We're going to identify what could be the relationship problem that caused the relationship issues in the first place. Okay? A lot of people think it's the other party, but that party you can't really affect. But in your own life, you can solve your part, that 50%. Okay, so we talked about looking at the identity palace and studying what was the sitting star. The sitting star is the top left corner star. And we talked about whether that sector has negative landforms or negative internal forms. So externally, if there's a pylon, for example, it will cause that sector to be on a negative drive, or internally, low ceilings, very dark, no windows, stuck energy, or cluttered internal identity palace, that will cause issues. But specifically what? Then it relates to the 9 stars. Like for example, star 3 relates to unresolved conflict, star 6 relates to trust and security issues, star 5 relates to self-worth. That was the 3 that we deep dive into. Okay. I also showed some advanced applications that at this point I'm still considering to include in part 5 of our training, and that was to incorporate the 八字 of that person into finding the specific targeted sector to affect a cure. This is bordering line the activation and also cures that we can implement to fix an insecurity issue, a self-doubt issue, for example, specifically using the parts of that individual. Okay, so that was one of the things we discussed as well. And also, we announced 3 additional sets of the Feng Shui starter kit, specifically the acrylic compass. This is a full working compass for you to use to analyze your house direction, plot the flight star chart or personal life house guas of your house. It comes with the templates as well as a instruction book. Really, really cool. It's worth $500. We announced 3 more sets for giveaways for you as an encouragement if you get selected with the most perfectly done homework. So yesterday's homework was to fill up this sheet here. We call this the put your hand over your heart worksheet, where you're going to fill up as honest as possible, because this allows you to unlock part 4's treasures. It also allows you to go deep into the roots of your problems and understand what you need to target the Feng Shui to solve, because targeted Feng Shui is kind of like an expert surgeon. It operates with deftly precision, but only if you know exactly what the problem is. So that's why this exercise allows you to cut through that. Okay, so let's have a look at that the most powerful framework once again. So this is the framework, and we have touched on systemic and targeted approach. Okay, and of course in part 4 we're going to go even deeper into targeted approach by looking at activation. So it's going to be a really, really exciting day. And for the live session only bonus, obviously that part won't be in the replay, but we talked about conquering workplace challenges, how to actually excel in a very probably chaotic and problematic and dramatic workplace. How do you use Feng Shui to solve that? We talk about how to become your boss's nobleman, for example, so that you don't have misaligned expectations, and how to find the best place and best timing to negotiate pay dissatisfaction, how to get better pay. Okay, so that was what we discussed yesterday. Now, do not miss part 4, because it's the penultimate session of our training. It talks about activation, and if you understand just that part alone, you could activate the positive chi in your house and put yourself on an upward spiral for better days to come using Feng Shui. Okay, so I will see you at part 4.